Rand the first question.
Okay, well, we should introduce ourselves, no?
Okay, Mark is a partner. Are you a senior partner yet, Mark?
Way to go.
Okay. At KM, it's the second largest. Still, is it the first largest now? It's still the second.
It's the first one. It's now definitely number one in China
Okay, so he's with the
and
number
in
one
Hong Kong.
in
Yeah.
China. I've known Mark for quite a few years. He's got a degree, a law degree in China, and then went to University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana for a master's in intellectual property law. And he was the architect of a very successful anti-counterfeiting program in China on behalf of one of the companies we worked for. Rand, as I did a short introduction, I'll let him do the rest of the introduction.
Okay. Well, thanks, Robert. Mark, a pleasure to meet you. I know we're all here today to talk about exporting and China and intellectual property and licensing. And so I think it's going to be an engaging conversation. So as Bob said, Rand Brenner, my company's licensing consulting group. My focus is on working with companies to manage their licensing campaign. We don't do any of the legal work. We leave that to folks like Mark to take care of that. We do the business development side of it. So we work a lot with medical device companies, both in the US and outside the US, as well as other types of IP, including formulations, content, entertainment, consumer products, consumer services, you name it, it goes across the board. Even AI and some NFTs have come into the fold lately as part of that process. And so what we do is we manage everything from the strategy and planning all the way through outreach, negotiations, and compliance. And we've been doing that for over 35 years.
Wow.
So, and today we're looking forward to a conversation. It's always good to be able to share insight on different markets and legal issues around the world as it relates to IP and what those opportunities are. So pleased to be here.
Okay, thank you. You get the first question, Rand.
The first question. Well, Mark, why don't you give us a little more introduction about you and your law firm so the folks watching can get a little more sense about what you can potentially offer them if they set their sights on China.
Yeah, sure. Where should I start? I'm now a partner in Kenwood Medicines. I don't know if you have heard about the firm, but it's the number one firm in China, not only in IP, but also it's a full service law firm. We get around 3,000 people working within the law firm, and the IP practice. Within the IP practice, we have like more than 500 people. So personally, I am in the IP transaction team. So what I do is mostly the IP licensing work. When I was working with Bob, I did the full IP package, including mostly the enforcement work. We also do quite some prosecution work. For example, the trademark prosecutions and some design patents, validations, etc. But now, and my I would say more than 60 or 70 my work is about the licensing, is about the transaction, and about the collaboration to creation of the IP. And I also do quite small bit of work in the enforcement, litigation, and the other prosecution work. So that's pretty much about me. And as Bob mentioned, we have been, knowing each other for quite a while, and we work, quite a lot in the IP field around, I would say, more than 10 years ago already. And back then, I was working on the anti-counterfeit. So I worked, under Bob's supervision, helping the U.S. companies and a U.S. company with respect to their, anti-counterfeit effort in China. And after that, I joined another company where I
You went mute, Mark.
Uh-oh. Where you got muted.
Hello?
Now
There
you
you go.
Yeah,
Uh,
there was a call coming in, and probably the very last section of my conversation was just blocked by that call. But never mind.
okay. And hey, Bob, why don't we go back to you for a moment? And talk about, you've known Mark for a long time, you on the enforcement side, but you've got an extensive background in the consumer products field, and especially working outside the United States and Latin America. And why don't you share some of that? Because I think it can be very insightful in terms of what we'll be discussing today.
Okay, I've worked for various companies in the that sell to retail. I worked in the international division the whole time. The I worked in Asia. I worked in Europe. I worked in Africa. I was very successful in Nigeria. We didn't lose a single penny while I was there, and we had $1 million business.
What were you doing? What was your role, and who did you work
My
for?
role was in sales, and I worked for Wall Clipper Corporation. Most of my career in international was with Wall Clipper in two different stints. I also worked in Mexico, setting up a joint venture for the company I worked with. Uh, Worked with a company in Mexico. In 3 years, me and my team took the sales from 4 million to 26 million with an advertising spend of 500,000. So I know the buyers in most of the world's retailers. Some of them may not be there now. I've been doing this for over 30 years. Uh, but I think the my experience has been in sales, in a little bit of finance in when we were setting up the joint venture, and in brand protection, anti-counterfeiting,
Which is where you met Mark.
where I met
Yeah.
Mark.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, it's a big subject. So, Mark, jumping back over to you, in working with clients and licensing, the questions about China always come up. How do we get into the market? What should we, what are the issues there? And of course, piracy jumps to the top of the list. So, as companies, IP owners look at, the Chinese market, and they're interested in doing licensing over there. Obviously, the importance of working with somebody like you. Can you take us through, some of the things that, companies outside of China who are interested in getting there, especially through licensing, need to be aware of or take steps with, or even in fact engage a firm such as yours to help manage that process and also monitor and make sure everything is going as it should?
No, let me bring in one point. If people listening are thinking, oh boy, here we're going to be talking about licensing products. Licensing, as Rand has explained to me, is an excellent way for a US company that has IP to get into the Chinese market with very little risk. And if you're manufacturing in China already, it's just one step closer to doing it. So go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, that's all right.
Exactly. I think licensing IP is not as risky as many of the international companies has been thinking about. But the key is to have a plan, have a good plan. Always, get your IP registered in China before you even before you step into the China market. China as it's the same as the other jurisdictions. It adopt the strict first to file policy, which means basically whoever first to file in China get the IP registered and protected. So we have seen too many I would say dramas or tragedies whereby the companies forgot to do it for whatever reason, and they have to spend even millions of dollars to get it cured, and the consequence can be quite unfortunate. And also, it depends on the industry. But for the for the good for the big brand with a big name or the famous names, it depends on the trademark protection. And for example, some tech firms like the medical device companies, they get patents registered and also the know-how. And one of the key is with respect to the key employees, because the know-how and trade secret actually they are within people's head. And now
Right.
we are seeing many Chinese talented executives being moving between the MNC to the local startups. And with that move, there are quite some trade secrets being I would say being released. So that's also something you should take care of. But basically, for the newcomers into the market, I would always suggest them to do the priority as registering their IP.
Isn't
Okay.
it?
And then obviously working with somebody such as yourself to make sure that it's done correctly and that it's covered, and they've got somebody there representing their IP and making sure that if there is any issues, you're there that can take care of it for them. And we'll provide contact information at the end of this video.